Witnesses for appearing today. Canada's a country of law and order, and by all accounts from what we're hearing, unfortunately, Haiti, or at least parts of it, under gang rule, are not. This committee has undertaken a study of the effectiveness of our sanctions regime, and last June, the minister imposed further sanctions on Haitian gang leaders. Can you talk about whether those sanctions have been effective? Are we seeing any effect? Do the Haitian gang leaders have some assets or trade or interests in Canada where these sanctions might be effective?
I will begin, and then I will turn to my colleague, Sylvie Bédard. I will simply note that part of our 4 pillars of engagement in Haiti include a fight against impunity. And indeed, one of the things that Canada has done has been to impose 31 autonomous sanctions against gang members and political leaders with either corruption or gang affiliations. So we have imposed those, and I will turn to Sylvie to give a little bit more detail on the sanctions situation.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The use of the sanctions tool, as my colleague pointed out, while it is indeed one of our tools for Canada's response to the situation in Haiti, a number of reports have been published by the UN Experts Committee on the special economic measures, those of Canada, those of the United States, are those imposed by the UN, the extent to which they encourage change among elites, political players in Haiti. We sense, and Haitians themselves, with whom we are in ongoing contact, do tell us that they do see that elites think twice before behaving in corrupt ways. This tool, however, will not be efficient if it's used as a standalone approach. We continue to work closely with the transition government to support their transition.
And you referenced that the Dominican Republic has repatriated or basically undocumented back to Haiti. The incoming U.S. president has also announced that he will revoke Haitian temporary protected status in the U.S. Is the CBSA and our government preparing to receive more Haitian refugees? And if so, can you outline those preparations?
Mr. Chair, thank you to the honourable member for the question. I will start with Part A on the Dominican Republic and then move on to the other 2 parts of the question. Canada is very concerned about the welfare of those being deported and the destabilizing impacts in Haiti of the decision of the Dominican Republic. That being said, it is also important to recognize the impact that the Haitian crisis has had on the Dominican Republic and the support that the Dominican Republic has provided to date to Haitian migrants, especially in education and health sectors. So we want to acknowledge that. We are working very closely with our regional partners and through international organizations like the IOA, the International Organization for Migration, to support and reduce irregular migration and ensure lawful migration pathways, and that human rights, safety, and dignity of all deportees are in compliance with international human rights obligations. That is on the DR. On the United States, Mr. Chair, am not in a position to speculate on what the positions will be of the new Trump administration on Haiti.
Well, Canada's preparations.
I would simply note that for the time being, from the perspective of our IRCC, what they have done is they have a temporary program, and I'm not sure if I have the name at my fingertips, but the IRCC has opted to extend the temporary program that they have for for Haitian permanent residents until 2025. In terms of CBSA preparations, I do not have information at my fingertips, so I would have to defer to CBSA colleagues.
Thank you. In your response, you referred to irregular migration. I come from an area of the country that is a very innovative sector, 12 to 15,000 temporary foreign workers here through programs, which is a great program, but we also have 2,000 to 3,000 irregular, undocumented, it's an estimate, in my home region. And so what is the CBSA doing to prevent another Roxham Road? Because I can declare through personal interviews in my hometown that some of those undocumented have come through that avenue. What are the preparations for that not occurring again?
Mr. Chair, we are doing our best to ensure that colleagues take a whole-of-government approach and are conscious of these types of potential challenges and have appropriate contingency plans. As to CBSA's preparations, I would have to defer to colleagues at CBSA, and I'm happy to come back to the honourable member in writing with their support.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We next go to MP Chattel. You have 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, witnesses, for being here this afternoon. Is it fair to say that we've at least stabilized the region now? Is there still any implications of the destabilization of Haiti actually going to Dominican Republic or any of the other Caribbean islands? Are we seeing any grounding of organized crime or other networks locating in Haiti?
Mr. Chair, I'm hesitant to speculate or to indicate that there won't be any future regional instability. For the moment, the gang situation in Haiti seems largely contained to Haiti, in that the neighboring Dominican Republic, aside from migration challenges, which I'd mentioned in my opening intervention, seems to be okay. I think one of Canada's continued interests, invested interests in our engagement in Haiti is to make sure that regional stability remains and does not spill over into other parts of the hemisphere.
You said you had a round table, and Mr. Jolly had a round table in Montreal. What were the actual items that came out of the round table, and where are they at?
Mr. Chair, I'll turn to my colleague, Madame Bedard.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Chair, among the areas of concern and interest that were brought up and discussed with the Haitian community in Montreal, we find agricultural development, strengthening of the legal system and jail system. So it was brought up that it's, of course, important to stabilize the situation and ensure security, but the legal and carceral system has to be worked on as well. It's quite fragile at present. Also, discussions about transport infrastructure took place.
Those are all good things, and if you had the rule of law in place and if you had a functioning government in place, those would be all noble causes to work towards, which I think we should be a part of. But how can you water down what we need to do over the short term if you're spending so much time looking at things in the long term?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Forgive me. Sorry. Mr. Chair, the situation in Haiti is indeed complex and challenging, and Canada has attempted with our strategy to do both. I think first we have taken an approach where we look at the fundamental areas that need to underpin safe society, while also taking into account the feedback that we hear from the Haitian diaspora community. And just to review those pillars, we are looking at some of those initial fundamental pieces, as the honourable member had noted. First and foremost, we have invested heavily in the security improvement
Okay.
situation
Okay.
in.
I only get 5 minutes. I don't mean to be rude, okay? I guess I'm also kind of curious, there's other countries in the region that have expertise dealing with gangs. So I'll use Colombia, for example. Yet Colombia may not have the financial wherewithal to come in and participate. Have we looked at seeing how we could participate with allies or friends or people within the region in using their strengths and resources and maybe shoring up, getting that rule of law under control, especially with countries that have expertise in doing exactly that?
Mr. I'm not doing well with this. Forgive me. Mr. Chair, yes, Canada is working hand in glove with allied countries throughout the Caribbean, as well as throughout the region, and through the UN, building on their expertise in this area, as well as allies like the US. I can give you a sense that even from a security perspective alone, we are providing training for battalions coming from Jamaica, Belize, Guatemala, Bahamas, El Salvador, and of course Kenya. And many of these countries do have experiences that the honourable member had
Why Kenya?
indicated.
I just find it so amazing that we have to go to Africa to get that support, and we couldn't do it in our own backyard. We couldn't put together that type of network amongst the countries within the Western Hemisphere. Why did we have to go to Kenya?
Very briefly, Mr. Chair, the countries in the Western Hemisphere have contributed considerably, including contributions through the MSSM and a number of the countries that I named in the Caribbean. We are deeply grateful to Kenya for their ongoing involvement and their first deployment and their next deployment, which is upcoming.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Merci à nos témoins pour présenter.
Thank you to our witnesses for their presentations today.
Premièrement,
I have a few questions. First, how many Canadian citizens are on the ground in Haiti?
in Haiti.
Forgive me. Mr. Chair, at the moment, our latest data is based on Canadians who register through our
Sure.
consular services.
What-
It is about 3,000, but I will just turn to my colleague to validate the exact number.
Correct. And there was reference to Canadian Armed Forces members into the RCMP. How many members, just to clarify, do you know how many members of the Canadian Armed Forces and members of the RCMP are present in Haiti? And if you don't, that's fine. But if you could provide that information to the committee.
Monsieur le Président, en ce moment, il y a
Mr. Chair, at present, there are 3 members of the RCMP on the ground in Haiti, no members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Thank you very much.
Members of how many diplomatic and consular officials do we have present in Haiti today?
Mr. Chair, at present, we have 22 members of our diplomatic corps.
Okay, and that includes,
Includes the consulate.
locally engaged staff as well.
It's 22 Canadians in Haiti at present.
22 Canadians plus locally engaged staff.
Plus locally
Okay.
engaged staff, that's correct.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to turn to the financial assets that we've provided for Haiti. The government announced monies of $86.2 million to support the MSS. Has all of that money been dispensed? Okay, it has. Thank you. And how much has Canada contributed to the United Nations Interagency Human Response Plan for 2024? The UN had called for $673.8 million. I'm wondering how much has Canada contributed to that?
Monsieur le Président, le Canada a contribué
Mr. Chair, we have contributed $23 million to that plan, to which the international community responded, but only up to 46% of the request. The amount you mentioned that we have 32. You mentioned the 32 people in Haiti or Haitians who've been sanctioned by the government of Canada. How many of them have property, assets here in Canada? Mr. Chair, we don't have that information to hand, but we can get back to you with it.
And also, the former Haitian Prime Minister has also been sanctioned, and he challenged this sanctioning in federal court. Can you tell us what the status of that court case is right now?
Monsieur le Président, notre compréhension.
Mr. Chair, our understanding of the matter is that this is still before the courts.
To trial yet, or is it?
Monsieur le Président, j'ai pas cette réponse-là, mais on.
I can't tell you, Chair, but we can get back to you with that information. Thank you. Has anyone else challenged their listing for sanctioning at the federal courts? Yes, Mr. Chair, we have received a certain number of challenges, and they're going through the legal channels. How many? I don't have that for you either to hand, but we'll get back to you with that information. Thank you.
Assets in the region that could be brought to bear in Haiti, diplomatic assets, military assets, development assets.
Mr. Chair, at the moment, we have focused most of our assets directly in Haiti. I mean, we certainly have colleagues in neighboring missions who have provided support, including in the DR, and we have had colleagues work out of neighboring missions when the security situation, for instance, has been elevated or aggravated. So we are using our diplomatic network to support our current Canadian operations. But beyond that, we've been focused on investments directly into Haiti.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Chong.